Welcome to the very first episode of the Michael Levine Show. And for those wondering, I have no idea what exactly I am doing. I've never done this before, but I just feel like doing something. You ever get the feeling of just wanting to do something? Like your everyday existence is so meaningless that you fall asleep at night and you literally you just dream about doing anything. Literally anything. That's what it's come to. You know? You're not struggling, you know? You're not homeless. You're not impoverished. You're not malnourished. Your basic needs have been met, but there's just a giant gaping hole that people would call a soul that doesn't exist within your existence on this planet as a carbon-based life form. Either way, with that exposition aside, we're gonna talk about shit. What shit? I don't know. Sometimes structured shit, sometimes unstructured shit. I don't know how it's gonna come out of my ass. Just like how I don't know how it's gonna come out of my ass when I take a shit in the morning. Sometimes it's one push and we're good. Sometimes I'm sitting there for 10 minutes. No idea. No idea. But we're gonna persevere, right? Because theoretically, our consciousness has been constipated for like 8 years. And I think it's time I take some magnesium citrate, and exfoliate my bowels. Either way, let's jump right into the first topic of the day. First topic of the day. Let me make sure I pull it up right. This is a real news article. A real news article that I found. Someone took the time to write this. Someone got paid to write about this. In fact, Jill Lawless was paid to write this story about a cat in England that kills rats. That's it. That's all it is. It's a cat in England that kills rats. That's it. But look at the way that she talks about it. In turbulent political times, is it safe to say that things might be a little bit turbulent in the United Kingdom? The nation where if I criticized this online with enough conviction behind it, I could potentially get arrested. That's a scary thought. That's a scary thought, right? Times are strange in England. I saw a video of an Arsenal fan the other day get arrested for yelling something at a Tottenham fan. A sports fan got arrested for saying something that wasn't even controversial to a Tottenham fan. That doesn't make any sense. But then again, I've seen people in the UK get arrested for far less. Very weird times. Across all those nations, Ireland too. Northern Ireland, regular Ireland, Scotland, Wales, England. It's amazing how many countries you could fit on a tiny fucking plunk of land in the English Channel. Regardless, in turbulent political times, stability comes with 4 legs, whiskers, and a fondness for napping. This is the Associated Press. Someone's getting paid to write this. Larry the cat celebrates 15 years on Sunday as the British government's official rodent catcher. In turbulent political times, it is important for us to ground ourselves in knowing that the British government has a cat that hunts mice. Congratulations. Unbelievable. This is A1 reporting. A reassuring presence who has served under 6 prime ministers. The fact that you've had 6 prime ministers in 15 years is fucking crazy. That's insane. Over the last 15 years, you've had 6 fucking presidents. That is wild. We've had 2, 3. Sorry, I forgot about Joe. We've had 3. Larry the Cat's approval ratings will be very high, said Philip Howell, A Cambridge University professor. What the fuck does a Cambridge University professor know about a government cat assigned to murder mice? But again, I don't even know why I'm dissecting this. I guess the news has been so bland that this was the first thing that caught my eye. I'm just tired of seeing, every time I turn on the news, it's got to be something about right wing versus left wing, Trump, Epstein, all this shit. I'm like, I don't fucking care about any of this. What am I supposed to do about Donald Trump? What am I supposed to do about Jeffrey Epstein? What am I supposed to do about the Rothschild family and all these fucking conspiracies? What is the point of that knowledge? Awareness? What does awareness do? Now I know things? Doesn't make any fucking sense, bro. And it consumes people's lives. How many friends do you know that have become just completely overwhelmed with this wormhole of modern news that is hyper-focused, scarily hyper-focused? Either way, let's finish. Let's get through this. You see, it's very difficult for me to read the news because I can't even finish a fucking 6-paragraph article, even though I went to journalism school, but I'm not a journalist. Yada, 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 yada. Larry roams freely and has a knack for upstaging world leaders. Really? Really? Larry has a knack for upstaging world leaders. Really? A cat that no one has ever heard of has upstaged world leaders. You know, I could think of 55 different things to write about that are currently going on in the political climate in the United Kingdom that make more sense than writing an article about a cat that kills mice for the British government. Sounds kind of mice-phobic, not gonna lie. Either way. Ho! Yeah, the rest of this article is fucking stupid. Either way, this person got paid to write. This is crazy. This is crazy. What's some of the other odd shit that people have written about, huh? Because I don't want to rain on Jill Lawless's parade. You know, this is not a personal attack on Jill Lawless. I don't know who Jill Lawless is. I don't even know if Jill Lawless is British. I don't even know what British is anymore. What is a Briton? I don't know. This is, in general, as much as I just hated on that specific article, this is the kind of news I want to see more of, right? Like, man lived rent-free in the New Yorker hotel, then claimed to own it. Brilliant. Brilliant. Would you rather read that or the 95th article on the Epstein files? I think I'd rather read this one. Hawaii residents sick of early crowing and aggressive pecking could be allowed to kill wild chickens. Where's the ASPCA? Where is the animal protectors? Where are the vegans protesting against this article? Brilliant news. A dog making a cameo. You see, the world loves animals. Look at this. Frying pan on Pancake Day. The United Kingdom has a Pancake Day? That's elite journalism. Who gives a fuck about Logan Paul? The dude's a douchebag. This might be my favorite. Olympic athletes promised fresh stocks of condoms on Valentine's Day after villages run short. Guys, we have been doing the Olympics for 100 fucking years. We have been doing the Olympics for over 100 years. How is it possible that in the year of our Lord 2026, the Olympics still run out of condoms? What haven't we learned? What have we not learned? We have had 100 years of practice to understand that these are athletes that spend every second of every day preparing for one moment in the future, that moment being the Olympics. They don't indulge in any of the temptations of life because they are hyper-disciplined, hyper-focused individuals with one goal: get a medal at the Olympics. But what happens if your event is on the first day and it's done? Now you got 13 days. What are you going to do? Well, you probably haven't had sex in 4 years, so it's time to fuck. Like, everyone knows it's the world's worst kept secret. These athletes, they go there, it's a fuck fest, it's an orgy. We get it. Like, we're all jealous. You are the most physically in shape people alive. You are all young, you're in your prime, and you're locked in a tiny village in one city. It's gonna be a fuck fest. Like, if you work with someone long enough in a tight, confined space, eventually sexual chemistry is going to rise. I don't care what you look like. It's gonna happen. Especially if that's like your only human contact, which for these people, like, this is gonna be the most amount of people that they have met in the last 4 years. Think about how isolated you have to be in order to be that disciplined to get to the Olympics. And all the people that you surround yourself with are more than likely also trying to get to the Olympics. So they're not indulging in any of the temptations of life. So you have a bunch of people who are hyper-focused, who have done the same thing over and over and over again, surrounding themselves with other people who have done the same thing over and over and over again. They're going to fuck because now they have nothing to do. The Olympics are over. I can take a breather. And I know that you're not getting your dick wet. You know, ain't no one coming in that pussy. So it's time to converge, you know? I thought about that a little bit too much. But then again, I don't know if I have. I'm not being that explicit or that descriptive, but these are, at the end of the day, truths. Poorly kept secrets. Common knowledge. I feel like I knew that when I was like 12. You know? I feel like that's a very known thing. That Olympians at the Olympics go to their event, compete, and then fuck. And that's it. That is the Olympics. Although I must say, I don't know if it's just the lack of cable that I watch, but I feel like the Olympics, as someone who's in their late 20s, the Olympics just don't fucking matter. Like, when I was a kid, you would see it everywhere. Tons of ads, tons of shit. Maybe that's just because, you know, you had people like Michael Phelps. But nowadays, you know, outside of the men's gold medal final and Alyssa Liu, like, who gives a shit about the Olympics? Like, I barely hear about it. I barely heard about it. But then again, you know, I might just be isolating myself socially, so that could be a very real possibility. Either way, on to our next topic. Speaking of news, AI, right? It's the buzzword that you wish you could stop hearing. Everyone on the fucking planet is talking about AI. I don't need another dude on another podcast to tell me that AI is about to ruin my life, that it is the great disruptor, that all of a sudden it's going to take away all these jobs and all this shit and yada, 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 yada. Add it to the fucking list, buddy. You think I'm worried about AI? I've got a credit card worth of plastic in my testicles, and you think I'm worried about fucking AI? You think I'm thinking 3 years in the future? I can't. Who has the fucking ability to think 3 years in the future? Who has the current day capabilities of looking past next week? It's a rarity. And there's a laundry list of shit that I'm worried about more than I'm worried about AI. I'm worried about glyphosate being sprayed on every fucking crop in America. I'm worried about the toxicity of the rain. I'm worried about if I live far away enough from a golf course so I don't get fucked up by the pesticides. I'm worried about whether or not my steel bottle is poisoning me with lead. I'm worried about the mold. I'm worried about the mold that could potentially be in the apartment that I rent. How do I know? How do I know that there's no mold here? You could have just fucking painted over it. There's barely any fucking regulations. For all I know, every apartment I've lived in has just been filled with toxic mold, and I have no way of knowing. But you want me to drop everything and worry about AI, and AI taking away jobs, and AI being a disruptor. That's not even my biggest worry with AI. My biggest worry with AI is polluting the fucking water supply. We've already seen that these massive data centers that are dedicated to just AI have water runoffs that are polluting local water sources. It's like fracking, right? You guys remember seeing those videos years ago where people would turn on their faucet and then they'd be able to light it on fire because there was gas that was leaking into the water supply because of the invasive nature of fracking. It's not a very stable way of excreting natural gas, excavating natural gas. I'm going to say some wrong words. I don't care. That's happening with these data centers. Think about the amount of fucking power that it takes just to power the ChatGPT that you use to look up things like my left ball hurts, should I go to the doctor? I've used ChatGPT, like that's like the main use for me, at least. Like AI, the main use is, am I dying? Can you solve this internet problem for me? Repeat process. That's it. That's it. Actually, that's not true. That's not true. I did have one time where I used Claude, and I think that Claude is my favorite, right? Anthropic. This is a little bit of a tangent before we get into the actual article that I want to discuss, but I used Claude and I said, Claude, I want you to pretend like you are Socrates. And I want you to be a little bit of a dick, right? Don't be a nice guy. AI is too nice. You know, if you send a piece of writing to AI, they'd be like, oh my God, you're so funny. You're so brilliant and cool. I'm like, quit sucking my dick. Be an asshole, but not too much of an asshole, right? Talk to me like Socrates would talk to me. Don't suck my dick. Either way, I basically used it as a therapy tool, right? I was typing in what I'm thinking, what I've been thinking, what's going on in my life, what I'm acting on, what I'm not acting on. And shockingly, it was surprisingly helpful. I mean, think about it. You have a computer that can read everything that someone has written, right? So if you take someone like Socrates, the computer has already read it all and it can interpret it, which means that it can basically pretend like it is him. It's a very useful tool. I mean, listen, I know that my mom, the only use that she ever uses AI for is therapy. I'm sure there's millions of people that use it to comb through their thoughts, because at the end of the day, I think that that's more useful than paying someone $800 an hour to fucking tell you, I think you should just go for a walk. Come on. Come on. We don't need therapists anymore. We can just talk to a computer. So I do think that AI has its uses. I think that people are overly scared. I think that you guys are blowing things out of proportion. I think that we are selectively looking at AI without really taking everything into consideration. We're hyper-focusing because AI is not as concerning as nonstick pans. You know, it's just not even comparable. I am way more afraid of nonstick cooking ware than I am of AI. I'm way more afraid of vegetable oil than I am of AI. Either way, speaking of scary AI, NPR here with an article. Hegseth, right? Our leader of war, or whatever the fuck you want to call him, Swear to God, every fucking position in the cabinet now sounds like something that someone in a fucking video game would write. But basically, they're threatening to blacklist Anthropic over woke AI concerns. Now, when they say woke AI concerns, what they really mean is, Anthropic, you're not letting me pull down the pants of every American and fuck them in the ass. So quit being so woke. That's what we do in politics, right? That's what people love to do. People love to create an umbrella. You take a term like woke AI, something that is so generalized that you can then use it as an umbrella over anything that you want. It's a common tactic that you see politicians use all the time. All the time, right? You can come up with your own different analogies for that, but that's where I'll leave it, because there's definitely sensitive topics that we could go over that discuss the use of umbrellas in politics. But when you see something like woke AI, that is an umbrella. No ifs, ands, or buts. But let's read the article at least a little bit, right? So he's threatening to blacklist Anthropic because the company doesn't want to loosen its safety standards. So there you go. You've been told it. Everything that you need to know about the article is right here. It's right here. They want to blacklist you because you refuse to loosen your safety standards. That's it. That's all you need to know, but we're going to go a little bit deeper. Basically, what the government wants to do is use AI for domestic mass surveillance, right? Now, this is the kind of topic that could create the world's biggest umbrella. You know, we have a case study of this. It's called the Patriot Act, right? Like, we've already been down this road before, post 9/11. We've seen what the government is capable of doing under the guise of fighting terrorism, right? Back then, the umbrella would be fighting terror, which is the most absurd fucking slogan of all time. That's like saying, let's end all war. What the fuck what does that mean? That's like saying stand up to cancer. Okay, which cancer? They're not all the same. Help us find a cure for cancer. You think that you can just like create one fucking shot that just hits all of these different complex diseases at the same time? It's an umbrella. Now, some are good umbrellas, because I do think that stand up to cancer is a good slogan, right? I do think that awareness about cancer is important. But in this case, the umbrella is malicious, right? At least you would assume so. I personally, we're going to get into that later. Either way. So what we've learned so far is that Hesketh, the weirdo warlord of the United States Defense Secretary, is upset that this AI company won't let him pull down the pants of every American and fuck them in the ass under the guise of lawful practice. Like, again, you even see it here. Hesketh said Anthropic needs to allow the U.S. to use its AI in all lawful purposes, which can include AI-directed warfare and surveillance. What does lawful purposes mean? What could lawful purposes mean? Take a second and think, if I put an umbrella like that, how far could it stretch? Lawful purpose. What is lawful anymore, right? Can we even define what lawful is? I don't know, you know? Yeah, I really don't. In the current political climate, I don't know what lawful means. All I do know is that when I hear someone say something that broad, that smells like you're being malicious. Now, there are all of the fucking theories about this potential AI overlord government that Peter Thiel, who knows about the Antichrist, wants to instill. Palantir wants to instill. We're already sort of kind of seeing it with TikTok, right? You know, you got Larry and David Ellison, who are pro a very specific movement, who are already using AI to censor certain kinds of content about certain types of people. But this idea of lawful purposes, that's not specific enough. It's odd because, like, if you read the laws that, you know, local municipalities have, or the federal government has, they're generally hyper specific. And the reason why they're hyper specific is because they've been broken so many times. And then, you know, maybe you break it, but you didn't really break it, so you take it to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court basically makes a ruling, and now I got to adjust the law. It's a very complex system. And in a complex system, you require specific answers. You can't just say something general. But of course, we broke that pattern in 2003, or whenever the fuck we released the Patriot Act, and we basically said, in the name of fighting terror, I can fuck you whenever I'd like. It's strange. And I mean, listen, if you've never heard of Stuxnet and you want to learn about the power of technology before the introduction of AI, the power of spyware, go watch that documentary. I can't really remember it, but it's somewhere in the back of my mind. I have that knowledge. I can't regurgitate it on command because I'm not a fucking computer scientist. But what I do know is that someone could just send me a message, and once the message reaches my phone, I don't even have to open it, and bang, they have everything. Now, to me, that doesn't matter, which is sort of going to lead into the next point of this. I know I've been hypercritical, but at the end of the day, as a regular citizen, it doesn't matter to me. Number one, what do I have to hide? Nothing. Literally nothing. There is nothing that I have to hide that I do on the internet or on any piece of technology. And if you were worried about having specific material, I can think of at least one where I'd say, you know what, we should spy on them. But for a lot of other people, I get it, right? If you're working on like IP, or you're trying to build an app, or you know, you have sensitive information, that makes sense. But it's a complex problem because I don't really care. Like, you think I give a shit if the government looks up my porn history? Like, it doesn't make a fucking difference to me. You ain't gonna find anything under my name. You think I give a shit if you know what I Googled? Oh my God, this guy's a paranoid hypochondriac. Like, congratulations, you know that about me. I do understand, though, that there are people who have things on their devices that they should be afraid of. But at the same time, I don't know if you're the kind of person they want to take advantage of, but I can't really say that. Either way, it's without a doubt. It's without a doubt an umbrella that they want to place to then use to manipulate whatever the fuck they want to manipulate. Now, I will say, when it comes to blackmail, this would be very concerning, because then they would be able to put anything they want on your computer. That, no. Either way, let's continue with the article. According to officials, if Anthropic does not back down, meaning bend over and let Hesketh fuck them in the ass, they plan to invoke the Defensive Production Act, a law from the 1950s, usually invoked during national emergencies. Guys, I don't know if you noticed, but we're in a national emergency right now. To produce certain products considered critical to national security, right? Again, umbrella. What's the best umbrella we could use? Let's go to this act written in the 1950s that has fucking nothing to do with what's going on, but we'll use it as a threat, which could potentially compel them to allow the military to do what they want. Now, this is the CEO of Anthropic, who does look kind of Jewish, just saying, but in a good way. In a good way. He doesn't look very conniving. He just kind of looks like Sam Bankman-Fried, but he's not that conniving. Let's continue. You see, we hear it again. Labeled woke AI. It's a brilliant umbrella. It's a brilliant umbrella. And you know that the stupid fucks that make up 90% of this country are going to eat that shit up. Woke is like the most overused fucking term ever. Just like Nazi is, right? Like, I fucking, confession, I fucking hate both sides. I hate Republicans and I fucking despise Democrats. I hate them both so fucking much. So much. They're both fucking morons. The polar opposite of each are fucking morons. But unfortunately, the polar opposite of each make the most noise. But either way, right? We see at long last the first real combat to this term. It's a nebulous and ill-defined term that Trump officials seem to use to describe any and all safety protections. I mean, like, this is Trump's MO. Take an umbrella and put it over everything and hope that these fucking morons don't realize that there's an umbrella and that's why it's not raining. Now, what does kind of bother me, though, is that AI firms like OpenAI and Google have agreed to do this, which basically means that OpenAI and Google are fucking cuck bitches. Of course, Elon has as well because Elon sucks on Trump's dick, but this is getting crazy to me. I mean, you're opening a door, you're opening Pandora's box by allowing something that's so roughly defined as lawful and woke AI, like the broadest fucking terms that you could think of. What is lawful? I don't know. I thought that demanding to see someone's identification without probable cause was unlawful, but apparently that's not. So, what is lawful anymore? Under this administration, I have no fucking idea. Under the prior administration, I'd also say the same thing. I can think of a specific event in 2020 that made me sort of question what exactly was going on here. But regardless of that, disturbing, frightening. Being surveyed doesn't bother me as much as the generalizations that are being used, the broad umbrellas. That seems a little bit more concerning, right? Because where are we going to draw the line? I mean, we already have umbrellas in this country. I mean, you can't even watch Pornhub in fucking Utah. That's crazy. That's insane. Got to use a VPN to watch porn? Are you fucking kidding me? You can't even criticize. I mean, we should be grateful. We should be grateful because at least we're not the UK, right? Where you literally can't say anything on the fucking internet anymore. You can't. I mean, we're talking about the EU have created task forces for internet gaming. If you talk shit too hard on internet gaming in the EU, you could now face criminal charges. Like, I don't know, maybe don't be such a fucking pussy. And if you can't take people talking shit, don't plug in a mic. Like, it's pretty fucking simple. But that's the idea of online narratives and their effect on mental health. That is a slippery slope that I do not want to digress into because I have very strong opinions on it. But let's just say, I think the world could do a lot of good if they stopped being such a fucking bitch. If you weren't such a bitch, maybe it wouldn't bother you. If you weren't such a pussy, maybe it wouldn't bother you. But then, of course, the liberals will say, why are you being so toxically masculine? What is up with this aggressive, patriarchal language? You don't have to take these narratives and tropes that have been ingrained into your brain by old white men and, plaster them on the world. You don't have to suck a bag of dicks, but yet you do. It's just like 99% of our problems could literally be solved if you just accepted that you're a pussy and you need to stop being a pussy. Regardless of that, Not good. Not good for the AI community. Not good. I keep fucking hitting my mic. Not good for the AI community. And this is a dangerous umbrella, something that I'm at least going to keep my eyes on because I think it's important. I think it's very important. But to me, I feel like that's enough current events. Move on into some abstract topics. Two topics to be specific, but let's start with the first one. Let's start with the first topic. I think the older you get, especially being in your late 20s, right? The older you get, the more you learn. Thinking back, to when you were like in high school or middle school and you would see these people, you would meet people older than you and they'd be like, you're not old enough to understand. You haven't seen enough of the world. You haven't experienced enough. You would think I'm hot shit, I got a big dick. Shut the fuck up, I know it all. Like that would be your energy. And then, of course, quickly as the years progress and progress, you start to realize, that guy was kind of right. Oh my God, that guy was fully right. That guy was a genius. It's a very odd pattern that I don't think ever gets disrupted because every generation seems to face the same thing. You ignore what older people tell you, you learn it out yourself, you're like, hey, you were right. And then the smart few are like, I'm going to listen. Turns out you were right. I prevented this from happening. So the older you get, you start to realize older people, they know what they're talking about. And when more often than not, when they're looking down on a younger person and they're saying something like that, like, listen, you wouldn't know this. You don't know yet. They're not being condescending. They're talking to their younger self. They're trying to pretend like you are them. And they're trying to project what they would have wanted to hear when you're that age. That's what it is. Which is a wise thing to do. It's a natural thing to do. Generally, when we talk about things like that, we're projecting, whether it be insecurities or securities or whatever. You're projecting. But the one thing you really start to realize is that your parents, in particular, they had no fucking idea what they were doing. Like, legit, none. No idea. Winging it. Especially if your parents worked. If both of your parents worked, I think that your entire existence was straight up improv. The whole fucking thing. Everything that happened was off the cuff. Nothing pre planned. It was all just firing from the hip. Because how could you? How could you have the time in the day to focus on yourself, your career, and give 145% to your kid? It's not possible. It's not a blame on them either, right? I think it's only natural. I'm not blaming any parents for not knowing what they're doing. But the more you know, right? Sort of just lost the whole concept of what I wanted to talk about with this through this whole Hegseth. I don't even know how to fucking say the cocksucker's name. But you just know that they didn't know what they were doing, which is fine. Which is fine. But I think that sort of gives you some relief, you know? It's not like I think it's crazy lazy to blame your parents for anything. Obviously, there are exceptions, right? Abuse, trauma, especially physical, like there are very clear exceptions. But for the most part, for most people, since most people weren't abused, you know, they're doing the best they can. Especially me, bro. I was a fucking asshole. I was a fucking nutcase. And all things considered, I'm like, for how fucked up of a kid I was, you didn't do that bad. I mean, the only thing I would let you feed me is chicken nuggets, and I'm still alive. No colon cancer, hopefully. But it's tough. It's tough. I think that too many people externalize their problems onto their own childhood. And through therapy and hyperanalyzation, they begin to blame their parents or the lack of thereof parenting. Now, not to be a fucking condescending asshole, I'll give you an example, right? My parents, not the kind of parents that were ultra structured and said, hey, the second you get home, do your work, this, that, take out the trash, bang, bang, bing, bong, boom. No, it was not a disciplined routine, which is definitely something that I lack in life, right? But that's not their fault. Because once you hit a certain age, it then becomes your responsibility. Like, yes, it gives you a leg up. It's like taking PEDs. The kids whose parents were crazy rudimentary, they were on mental steroids as a child. And then they got to college and it's like, oh, okay, this is easy. I'm on roids. I can just bang, bang, bang the whole fucking day. Not everyone's like that. Not everyone had that upbringing. Not everyone's parents made them be that disciplined. Which, again, that's fine. But a common motif that I see now is that someone will have experienced the lack of discipline that I experienced, right? But then what they'll do is they'll get older, they'll go to a therapist, they'll explain it, and then the therapist will say, well, that's not your fault. That's your parents' fault. And I'm just like, suck a fucking dick, like choke on the fattest fucking dick on the planet. Cease your breathing functions, you demon. I don't want to see another molecule of carbon dioxide being exhaled from your lungs. Because that's such bullshit. That is such fucking bullshit. It's ridiculous. Brother, you've been an adult for like 7 years. At this point, it ain't their fucking fault. And now, if you were 16 and you were undisciplined, that's on your parents. But if you're 22 and you're not a disciplined kid, that's your own fucking fault. You're an adult. You can think and act and analyze and critically fucking do whatever the fuck you want. But you choose to blame what happened to you, i.e., the lack of discipline growing up, as the reason why you don't have discipline today. No. The past is true, but the reason why you don't have discipline today is because you're a bitch. You're a pussy. Grow the fuck up. Do something. Or don't. Either way, quit bitching about it. Simple. Either do something or shut the fuck up. I think that that's the real solution. I think that if most people just came to the acceptance that life can be boiled down into one of two things. One of two things. Either shut the fuck up or do something. That's it. That's life. That's all it is. Either shut the fuck up or do something. 99.9% of problems can be solved with those two things. That's it. If you shut the fuck up, great. Put it away. Lock it away. It's gone. No more worrying about it. It's just the truth. You live with it. It's called acceptance. If you do something, well, now we're moving. Now we're going forward or we're going backward. But either way, eventually we're going to end ahead of where we are. That's it. So I hate seeing people, most people who externalize their adulthood problems onto their parents, because you have to give them a break. They didn't know what they were doing, especially if you were the first kid. And unless you had a 20-year fucking break in between them, like if you're 5 and your older brother's 10, there ain't that big of a fucking difference. Your parents, like, come on. Now again, because it's 2026 and you have to be ultra specific, does not include the minority of people who were actually abused. But I don't think that a lack of discipline or a lack of attention equals abuse. I just don't. I just don't. I think that that's a cop out. I think that you're being cheap. I think that you're looking for something to blame other than you. And I think that that's the problem with most of therapy. They love to point to parents and say, that's the problem. No, no, you have been an adult for 20 fucking years. You're now 45 and you're blaming your fucking parents. That doesn't work, dude. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. It could be the issue for some things, 100%. But self-accountability is the only accountability that matters. As long as you've been an adult, you've been able to work on it. And if you don't, that's on you. Simple. But enough of the fucking parents talk. I'm doing a decent job of trying to stay structured. But I am noticing that I'm just going off on fucking tangents. And I have no fucking idea exactly what I'm doing. But this is great, you know? Sometimes it's nice to not know what you're doing. Sometimes it's good to have no fucking idea how to do something and just do it, you know? You gotta think that the first person to ever do anything like this on the internet had no fucking idea what they were doing. No idea. Not a fucking clue in the world. But they just said, fuck it. Fuck it. Fuck it. The last topic, though. The last topic sort of hits home. Especially if you're someone in my age demographic, right? Not going to dox myself and tell you my age, but let's just say I'm not 30, but I'm also not 19. I feel like online dating, right? Hinge, Bumble, Raya, Tinder, Grindr. These have created quite the interesting microcosm in existence, right? Because for the first time in history, you have access to people without actually having access to people. What do I mean? Well, I'm getting a manicured playlist of you, a select few photos, with hopefully an attempt to not be serious in the captions. And the people who take captions fucking seriously, what are you doing? What are you doing? Under preference, when it says ethically non-monogamous, what the fuck? I don't give a shit. Why is there a full fucking paragraph there? I don't care. I don't give a fuck. Either way. Way too serious, bro. Way too serious. I don't think a dating app is where you go to find your wife. Right? I mean, unless, of course. Actually, you know what? Maybe it is. Maybe it is now. Maybe we've just come to that point. I will say it is scary, the thought of approaching someone in 2026, because you like the last thing you want is for someone to turn around, put their phone in your face, and be like, "Fuck off, pedo." Like, you're 25. How could I be a pedo? But I don't want to deal with that. You know, I feel like TV has fucked our brains up into thinking that that's an unnatural situation. You know, we're ass backwards now. But the whole landscape it's crazy to me. It's crazy. I mean, the effects on your mental psyche. Perhaps you don't get a lot of matches. Perhaps you're just the drunk like, you know, like I feel like there's two kinds of likes. There's the oh my god, I would smash, and there's the if I were drunk, maybe. But you do it anyway. You like it. But you don't know which one you are. And then at the end of the day, even when you do match, I'd say maybe 10% of people actually type. I just think that it's turned into this never-ending cycle of validation where you go on, someone matches with you, and that's it. It's like, good, I know that you would fuck me. Thanks, buddy. See you later. No words. That is 99% of that experience. It's just a validation loop. That's all it is. That's all it ever will be. Then there are the people who, you know, mean, do the yada yada and fuck and whatever. I get it. Been there, done that. It's fantastic. I'm sure everyone has. I'm sure everyone in the world has fucking done that. Maybe not a select few. There definitely are dudes that wouldn't, but I'm sure every girl who has ever been on a dating app has fucked off the dating app. And if you haven't, that's on you. I mean, really, that is. Because dating for a woman is like shopping for a free car. If you want one, you can get one. It's that simple. It's that simple. Um, Guys, not so much. It's like storage units, you know? Sometimes you just don't have the money for one. Or you get stuck with the one that's unlocked. Or you get the empty one. Or you're just too afraid to even go and bid. Like, I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. Either way, the current climate of dating apps is just, it's wild to me. It's essentially, calling it dating apps is ridiculous. What it really should be called is Would You Fuck Me app. Simple. So you see someone you like, the first question that pops into your mind is, would I fuck you? Yes, like, done. They see that you like them. They look at your profile. They ask themselves, would I fuck you? Yes, like, done. That's it. That's like 99% of the experience. Would you fuck me? Yes, done. Would you fuck me? No, done. That's it. But unfortunately, I feel like this is slowly becoming the main way that people date or try to meet people. It's scary to me. It's odd because you don't fucking know this person. You have no idea who they are. You don't even know their friends. So it's like you're truly going into the fucking abyss. And you don't have that natural moment of meeting, right? Because I think that there's something to be said about meeting someone in the wild that you don't know and you don't know anyone that they know, but like there's the genuine connection at the very beginning. There was something that made you break your pattern of not talking to people and go and talk to someone. Like that alone means way more than would I fuck you? Yes. Ding. Two completely different things. Two completely different things. But it's a very strange climate dating in 2026. I mean, I'm not doing much of it. In fact, I'm doing none of it. But still an observer. And I'm definitely listen, I'm guilty, right? I have no intention of meeting anyone that I look at on a dating app. Zero. I am not in a position to meet women, but I also use it as a validation loop. Not very validating. I gotta say, I'm not a very photogenic guy, and I got a shitty profile. But it's not very validating for me. So you cannot sit here and say I'm being a hypocrite. You can. I am being a hypocrite, but I'm being a self-aware hypocrite. Self-aware hypocrite. I know what I'm using it for. And I have no intention of using it for anything else. But I still have the experience of using it with intention and acting on using it. And it's just like, it feels so unnatural. It feels so weird. I don't like it. It feels like I'm turning human beings and sex into a commodity. Because essentially you're creating a stock profile, like 5 pictures, 3 prompts. That's it. That's all I have to go off. Everything else is optional. Don't have to tell me your height. Fuck. I mean, I don't want a trans woman, but trans women everywhere. Men. That's sexual orientation. Okay. I don't completely lost my fucking train of thought. Either way, you know what? I don't care. I don't care. I lost my train of thought because I started thinking about, I said, I don't want to see trans women on there. I stand by that shit. I don't want to fucking see trans. If I put straight man want women, like if we're going to use a different fucking term, if it's different words that are fucking popping up on the screen, why is that showing up on my feed? Why? 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 Just put woman then. Just put woman. Simple. Simple. Either way, I'm making a big deal about this. You can attack me for my sexual orientation. I don't really care. But regardless of that, it's a very manicured profile of someone, which is not natural. And then, of course, people are going to lie on their profiles. Maybe they'll lie about their height. Maybe they'll use old photos of themselves. It just, dating apps seem like way more of a risk than just crossing the bar and talking to someone. I just to keep it a buck. Simple. Either way, online dating, it's fucked. It's stupid. It's a validation loop. Unless you look like fucking Brad Pitt. But at that point, you don't fucking need you don't need help. Okay? You don't need a fucking app. You don't need shit. You look like you were chiseled by fucking Michelangelo. You don't need a Hinge. But that's not a lot of people. Either way, let's call it there. First episode, Michael Levine show. Probably sucked fucking ass, but fuck it, you gotta start somewhere, like we said before, you know? This is a good loop to close it on. Like we said before, there's only two options in life. Two. That's it. Life, all these people who tell you life is complex, life is difficult, life is this, life is that. Next time you see them, look at them and be like, you're a fucking idiot, shut your mouth. There's only two options in life. Shut the fuck up or do something. Simple. Simple. For most of my life, I've shut the fuck up. It's fine. It's fine. But those are your options. So either shut the fuck up or do something. Till next time, appreciate you. Thank you for the 0 people who watch this. Take care.